Story continuation from Demonic Champions of Slaanesh. Shackled, I awaken to another day of enslavement to the mask. From a balcony, I see the devastation of a long plan brought to fruition. I see demons pouring over a city, a hive world once of the Imperium, and of sanity. Not only are the demons similar to the mask, but others, gargoyle-looking imps, descend up from the sky to tear the poor citizens apart. And larger, roughly human shapes ordering them around, directing the lesser demons, both Slaaneshi and not, along the parade of depravity. I stare in abstract horror, or I would, were it not for the drugs going through my body, making me feel and see a kaleidoscope of pain and pleasure. Almost a fire that burns and heals in equal measurement. It is torment personified. As I observe the slaughter and depraved pleasure that is going on in this city, I see one figure, or the problem is I don't. He's more like a shadow. He's cutting through civilians, destroying tanks in a single swipe, but I cannot see his true form until he notices the masks and comes forth before her. A large, intimidating, and muscular entity billows smoke as he decides to coalesce into his true form. A roughly human-looking creature with massive wings, 4 sets of horns, and a blade that almost seems like it's not there. He speaks to the mask. I see you have acquired more playthings, slave to Slaanesh. The mask curtly laughs at his comment, where she simply replies, "Oh, my dear, I may be a slave to Slaanesh, but you are an unknowing slave to all 4 of the chaotic powers, being pulled in different directions and not even aware of it." The demon made of shadows gives a sneer of this. I do not know who or what he is, but I get the vibe that he is incredibly ancient. So much so that I truly thought about how old he was. I feel like I would go insane from the sheer thought of it. He goes to open his mouth and simply states, "You are lucky that we are here in this business endeavor together, or your head would not be on your shoulders right now, Slaaneshi. You may be older than me in technical terms and more powerful, but you are still a slave to the powers of chaos. Even if you are the first of the demon princes, Be'lakor." Having never heard that name, I never got context onto who he really is, or never had any to begin with. But after hearing it, it almost felt like my soul shivered and shrank away from this entity, like it knew instinctually to get away from it, that it was a being more terrifying and even more depraved than the mask. Somehow, that is a possibility. My will is my own, demon. Now, I am going to go do what I came here to do through our partnership, and afterwards, I hope that you are not in my sight again once our deal is broken. Because I will come back here and slay you myself and send you screaming back to the warp, where your master won't even have anything to do with you, and will simply send you dancing once again on the play and stage that is the universe and the warp itself. After making this statement, the demon known as Be'lakor turned back into shadows and, like a comet, darted back into the city, seeking some kind of prize. The mask then turned to me after I'd witnessed all of this, and simply said in a cooing-like voice, "Now that the business part of this is over, what new torments and pleasures shall I inflict upon you today, my slave?" And at this, I was filled with terror, or I would be if it wasn't numbed by the drugs that she forces into my body every day, so that she can keep continuing to toy with me and use me as her power of conduit to keep herself in reality. I beg for the day she finally releases my soul, screaming into the warp. I had hopes that the demon known as Be'lakor would have done it for me. Welcome back, Warlords and Generals, to today's video. Today we were wrapping up the Demons of Chaos, in 40k lore at least, the baseline with the Demons of Chaos Undivided. These demons do not come from a chaos god, or they can be part of any pantheon, just in a different form regardless of their classification. They are basically entities of the warp created through random chance and other strange circumstances. They are not exactly tied to the will of the gods. It means they are not part of any chaos-aligned army faction. And with that, we are going to start with the Furies of Chaos. These demons are among the lowliest of the denizens of the warp. Known as the Crows of Chaos, the Furies, these creatures reside in the formless wastes. They are not normally part of any of the Chaos God's domain, and are extremely easy to subject to their wills and needs, however. When one of the ruinous powers requires or wants the use of the Furies in battle, they send a wave of their energy through the formless wave and waste. Any of the Furies caught up in this wave are instantly subjected to the will of that said god. When the gods of chaos do conscript the Furies into their services, their physical attributes will change. Ones serving corn will have their skin turn red. Tzeentch ones will start to shimmer with an arcane energy. Nurglite Furies will grow virulent, bulbous growths, and ones subjected to Slaanesh, they gain more of a swiftness and surety of their movement. The physicality of these demons is not the only change, but how they act in combat as well is influenced. Tzeentchian Furies will fly with screamers. Their shimmering wings act as a semi-camouflage. Slaaneshi ones will dive bomb targets for the demons of Slaanesh to hunt down while distracted. Nurglite ones will fly ahead of the Talibans to attempt to chew on the fresh meat. Conversely, with Khorne, they will act as carrion, finishing off dying enemies that are left behind in the Blood God's Legion's wake. Regardless, Furies are cowardly demons, only dive in and attacking foes who are running away or cowering in fear, waiting for even the faintest sense of weakness in the enemy line, when not given direct commands. Enemies who show courage and stand their ground tend to be enough to stop a Fury in their track and retreat, having lost any motivation since their prey into being easy is no longer the route that they can take. Unfortunately for the Furies, they tend to not survive battles, even in victory, for usually the demons they allied with will turn on them, sending back to the formless waste, where there is no end of Furies to recruit from. So they are basically a bottomless barrel of disposable bodies that the gods of chaos can summon forth for their own needs. And with the disposable Crows of Chaos covered, we will move on to our next subject. The next demons are not nearly as numerous, but they still find them within any of the demonic legions. Giant, mechanical, yet flesh hulks known as soul grinders. These monsters are found in any of the gods' armies, pistons firing as these behemoths make their way towards enemy lines. Most of these monstrosities reach the size of greater demons, the massive swords they wield cleaving enemies or crushing them with their giant hydraulic power claw. These monsters aren't just devastating in melee, however. They have an equipped and on their wrist-mounted cannon, forged to launch searing hot hatred at the enemy from the mouth, which can expel gouts of warp energy. Though this attack comes in many forms, all of them are lethal. Sometimes the gouts take form in many different ways. The energy can take gouts of flame, others are tongues that lash energy, and sometimes it's even liquid that would melt anything it touches. As if these abominations weren't terrifying enough, they are extremely resilient. Only the most powerful of anti-tank weaponry is enough to put them down permanently. And even then, it's usually only enough to slow these monsters down. Even though these monsters are incredibly powerful, how they are made is not worth it. They are made, they are. When a demon dies, they simply wait in a form of purgatory in the realm known as the Forge of Souls, which is kind of the strange realm within the warp between reality and the warp itself, which is true torment to these demons, having no form to take. Usually they will manipulate mortals into sacrificing souls to them. The more souls, the less time they suffer in this strange purgatory-like realm. However, there is another workaround to this soul problem. The demon can ask the forge itself for a body. In exchange, the forge will ask for a debt in souls. The amount of souls, however, is different. Could be a handful, could be several hundred, though that number can change on a whim once the demon is in real space. If the demon agrees, they speak the oath of the Iron Pact, and that is when the forge will, forge them a body for the demon, and this is how soul grinders are born. Some of the time, a demon will pay off their debt and be released back into the warp from their contract. However, most of the time, most are not so fortunate. Should a soul grinder be destroyed, its debt yet to be paid, an already difficult task to begin, the demon will offer another reincarnation at a significantly deeper price. So begins an eternal cycle of spiraling downwards debt, forever keeping the demon imprisoned within the mechanical cage, making it canon that even in the warp, one of the scariest things is unfettered capitalism. Sorry about that. Continuing though, since we've done covering the soul grinders, we can move on to the servants of the warp, who are forever chained to the entities of the warp itself. I am, of course, speaking of the gods of chaos's demon princes. These demons are not of the warp, however. They were of mortals who had managed to achieve apotheosis, and as such they have gained incredible power, and more importantly, immortality. Every mortal champion seeks to ascend, though the vast majority of them will die, or worse, suffer the fate of spawndom, becoming a mindless, mewling, twisted, mutated creature, who do nothing but rampage once they are made. The princes gain a fragment of their master's psyche and powers, but usually retain their personalities and thirst for power that drove them in life, as it will forever in their immortal states. Regardless, they are incredible warriors and leaders, usually lead immortals into real space, wanting to carve out their own realm within the warp, using said mortals to help sustain them. Most, however, will leave their material behind and join the ranks of the patron's demonic legions. The older demon princes are even being worshipped by some mortal cultures, though greater demons will always look down on them, regardless on their power and their influence, the taint of mortality, forever making them inferior in the eyes of the greater demons. Even with this in mind, however, they are respected enough to trust with leading the lesser demons into battle. These champions of chaos come in many forms and demeanors, such as how the Khorne blessed ones would be brutal and excessively muscular and strong. Tzeentchian ones would be masters of the arcane and shimmer in and out of reality. Nurgles shall bloat, gaining incredible resilience and a hungry need to spread his patron's gifts to everyone. And finally, the Slaanesh demon princes, becoming sleek and more lithe with their quicksilver of the Lord of Demons. These princes will also keep some of their features and equipment that they had in mortal lives. Chaos Space Marines will retain pieces of their armor or keep their bolters, twisted but still recognizable and functional as a bolter. Cult leaders may hold their staff of office or robes that they wore during mortal sermons. Many exist under each of the dark gods, and many more exist throughout all the universe, though the demon primarchs tend to be some of the most well-known. Sons of the Emperor who betrayed him and the Imperium as a whole and the dream that it stood for. Most ascend to demonhood for their work during the Horus Heresy. Only one demon prince outshines all of them in terms of infamy. I of course speak of that demon prince's name, who is Be'lakor, the first of the demon princes, having received all of the gods' favors, and the sacrifices and acts required to obtain such rewards are not known or even conceivable, even among the oldest tales about him. Whatever he did to accomplish this goal, he had received the blessings from all four of the Chaos Gods, which would prove to be a mistake, as the Dark Gods do not share things for long. Such would learn the lesson of Be'lakor. Adding on to the fact that Be'lakor was now a nearly uncontrollable of how much power they had funneled into him. This eventually led to the Dark Gods creating their own demon princes with their own powers, so that they would serve their own ends, rather than run into the same problem as they did with Be'lakor. At least he helped them troubleshoot a problem early on. This did diminish his power overall, as his patrons' attention and power were being funneled into other vessels, ones which he would come to hate with a jealous, fiery hatred. As previously stated, this has turned Be'lakor into a jealous and bitter servant, going out of his way to kill or foil other champions of Chaos's plans. One would think it's his own Be'lakor's free will and want, but the truth is not so, for the gods of Chaos still have full control over his will, and use him quite often to their own ends. When he slays a champion of Khorne, it may have been a want of Slaanesh rather than of his own free will. Whether Be'lakor is aware of this manipulation or simply ignores it through his sheer arrogance is unclear. Regardless on his fall from grace and use as a pawn by the gods, he is a master of shadows and incredibly powerful, having been in the shadows of history since the dawn of time, having had a field day during the time in history known as Old Night, or the Age of Strife to the human race. Scholars and archaeological expeditions find Be'lakor's figure in dried cave paintings and statues of sunken, ruined cities on long-dead worlds and long-forgotten cultures. Many inquisitorial and archivers have gone mad trying to separate the truth from the fiction when it comes to Be'lakor's history. Not even the Grey Knights, experts in demonic lore and knowledge, know much of Be'lakor. This, of course, is all by design. As the more obscure he remains, the more terror he can inflict. Due to his marks on the galactic history, Be'lakor has enslaved whole planets to him, deifying him as a god, where his title, the Dark Master, comes in, and once these civilizations begin to fall in decline, he would abandon them like a overused toy for a new race to ruin with his malevolence and plans. Due to his insidious and near constant worship he is given, Be'lakor does not spend long in the warp, due to the amount of souls he has accumulated, though such situations rarely occur to begin with, for Be'lakor is a master of misdirection and can escape any scenario due to his mastery of shadows and planning. In battle, Be'lakor tears into his enemies with his warp magics, claws, and the weapon known as the Blade of Shadows, a weapon that flitters in and out of reality, slicing through armor as smoke and then flesh as a razor-sharp sword. Whether the sword is part of the demon or an ancient gift from the gods is unknown, but it makes Be'lakor even deadlier in combat regardless. being able to slip through enemies and slice through most armors. Ever the opportunist, Be'lakor will fight for any of the Chaos factions, anything to improve and to move forward with his own motives and ambitions, even among the several different armies of the Dark Gods. He will even work with the warbands of the Chaos Space Marines. In particular, as of late, since the Great Rift has opened, he has seen, quote-unquote, assisting Abaddon and his Black Legion Marines before and after Cadia's fall. Like most things, whether this is for the gain of some long-term plans, none can say, for smoke and shadows are what Be'lakor are, and he embodies the traits of them perfectly. And that is the basis of all the Undivided Demons that I am currently aware of in 40k that have been given rules, and of course Be'lakor the Dark Master himself. I was going to sit and wait to get this video out because I got quite a lot going on in life. However, with his release coming up in the next week or two, I thought this would be an excellent time to get a video covering a little bit of his lore right before his new model comes out, which, by the way, one of the better looking models they've put out in a while. Legit, very good job, GW, on this one. But with that, we have reached the end of the video, and I appreciate for all of you for making it this far and watching my content to begin with. If you'd like to support the channel, please hit subscribe and like on the video. If you want to see more from me, I try to put out a lore video every 1 to 2 weeks, though as previously mentioned, I am currently very busy in life, so I am trying very hard to get it out at least once every 2 weeks. If you'd like to discuss the lore content, or even leave some criticism, please leave a comment down below. If that is all, I hope that you all have a lovely day, happy wargaming, and always make time for some fun, even if that isn't wargaming.